We've got about 15 minutes left, and time to just move on to a slightly different topic now. One of the big topics in the jiu-jitsu world at the moment is about guys going to MMA. Garry Tonon's got his first fight this weekend. I think we're all looking forward to that one. Dillon Danis finally got an opponent. He's going to make his long-awaited MMA debut. Been waiting like a year for that, right? Since he signed the Bellator contract. And there's a bunch of other guys out there who are doing really well. So, all right, good on. Before we start talking about those guys, Craig, would you ever do MMA?
Yeah, people ask me this all the time, and I always give the same answer. I want a deal with Risen. Whoever Gabby Garcia gets the fight, I want that level of deal. You know?
You want Gabby Garcia?
No.
All right.
I want her opponent.
You want the 50-year-old.
I want the big money fights in Japan against older people. That's my plan for MMA. Nah, I don't think I would. Until I accomplish my goals in grappling, I wouldn't want to take any time away. Because I would think if I haven't reached my goals there, any time spent doing another sport is going to be detrimental to my grappling.
Yeah, good point. Good point. What about Garry doing MMA this weekend? That's obviously we're really
awesome,
excited for. But what do you think about that?
I think he's going to kill it. I don't know, something about, I look at that guy and I'm like, he could probably take a hit, you know what I mean? I look at some grappling guys and I think it's probably not for you, you know what I mean? So I think he's one that'll make a good transition.
Tough Jersey guys, right?
Very tough.
They all can take punches to the face, probably.
Yeah, they're used to it. They grow up to it.
They do. And Dillon's got his debut soon as well, right? Man, that's another one. He signed his contract in April of last year, March or April of last year at Bellator. And he's finally competing now in MMA for the first time.
I love it.
We're all very curious as well, yeah.
Very curious, but I'm honestly excited as well. I think this is something we've all been waiting to see, huh?
I think Bellator especially learned their lesson with Aaron Pico a little bit, and giving him too high of a caliber opponent right off the bat.
Aaron Pico being the Olympic wrestler, right?
Yeah, or the world level wrestler. Yeah, so he obviously lost his first match, and so I think they're giving Dillon a comparable opponent there. So
what's the guy, like 2-4 or something?
2-4. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and it got submitted in like his last two fights, I think.
That's a gift, hey.
It's a warm up. It's a warm up. Hey, Dillon's untested. He's 0-0, right? We've never even seen him throw hands. Like, we know that he's a good grappler, but who knows what his striking game is like? I'm interested to see if he's going to come out and he's doing the Connor thing.
The Connor,
you know?
Touch button the
A little bit of touch button, yeah, we'll see. But hey, no, he's training in Ireland with Connor and those guys, so I'd be surprised if he wasn't prepared for this, you know?
And then he's fighting on the same card. That Chicago card also has Rafael Lovato Jr., who obviously we're huge fans of here, versus John Salter, another guy we're big fans of.
ADCC veteran.
Qualified for ADCC and stuff like that.
Yeah, he beat DJ and he beat Josh Inga.
Yeah.
West Coast Trials. Pretty
That's
crazy
no joke,
performance.
man.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, yeah. So those two guys, who I think whoever wins, John Salter, Lovato Jr., I think it sets him straight up for a 185-pound title shot. And like that's incredible. That's awesome. I'd love to see either of those guys fight for the Bellator title.
Kind of the difference that I see though in like guys like Lovato and Salter is even Lovato's known as like a jiu-jitsu guy. He's not. He's been a lifelong mixed martial artist, right? Because his dad was like a JKD guy before he found jiu-jitsu, and you know Lovato's been training striking since a very early age. So something he's been doing his whole life. I think Salter he was an MMA guy who did well in grappling as well.
I think he's
right?
a wrestler. I want to say he
Wrestler,
wrestled
he
for
did.
Alabama,
Yeah, I mean, so it was high level, but a guy who could take his grappling game from MMA and do well in ADCC. I think it favors those kind of guys. The guys like Garry and Dillon, for me, they're pretty much like about as pure jiu-jitsu guys as you could see move into MMA. Would you agree?
For sure, it'll be a wild card seeing how those guys go. I think they'll both get like you said, they're going to get some good opponents, get a lot of time to build up. But it'll be tougher for them to make the transition straight away to high-level guys. Whereas guys with a really high-level wrestling background, I think.
Well, I just love the way like a lot of these new jiu-jitsu guys have been going in. Guys like Ryan Hall too in the UFC, and Lovato. Like I feel like because Lovato fought a wrestler, he fought Chris Honeycutt in his last fight, who's an NCAA All-American, and Ryan Hall fought Gray Maynard, who's an NCAA wrestler as well. And like I love seeing, because wrestlers now are like afraid to pressure jiu-jitsu guys up against the cage so much. 'Cause I feel like that's how they were winning before. But now, like just with
That's the
the leg locks and stuff like that, and Ryan Hall is so good at them. Like guys are afraid to pressure guys up against the cage because then they can just go right underneath, and then they don't really have a place to run away from the heel hooks and stuff.
That whole fight was incredible. He was basically spamming Imanari rolls in that
I love
match,
it.
right?
And like spinning kicks. It's crazy, yeah.
The
I watch
wildest
that
fight.
match all the time because it's like for a jiu-jitsu guy, it's like Yes.
And he came out of it. He barely took a single hit to the face, right? And Gray Maynard was super frustrated by it, but hey, deal with it. Right?
Yeah. Like it was just like kind of like a new fold to the game, and I felt like Lovato implemented it a little bit of it in his last fight too. So it's just super fun to see how the jiu-jitsu guys are contributing to the evolution of MMA.
We've talked a lot about Mackenzie as well. Mackenzie doing obviously making that transition over. We haven't really seen that much jiu-jitsu from her in some of her fights though, right? She's been working a lot more striking and stuff. She had a few submission wins, but two guys who are also competing a lot in MMA lately. There's one guy who's 3 fights in. That is Rodolfo Vieira. And he actually signed his MMA contract immediately, almost upon walking off the mat from ADCC 2015 when he won there, the 99 kilo division. I remember there was a Japanese guy kind of floating around. I don't know if you remember the guy, but he was kind of floating around at ADCC in Sao Paulo. And he signed that day. He signed Rodolfo. And I think he signed Gabby Garcia around about the same time as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was he's basically there to scout out the talent from ADCC. So it's kind of interesting that ADCC is like a springboard for MMA, though, right?
Yeah, you got guys like Gunnar Nelson fought on ADCC as well. They've had a long history of bringing those MMA guys in there, and having a springboard for competition like that.
I'd argue you'd probably see more guys who are successful in ADCC move into MMA than guys who are successful in other no-gi tournaments or even jiu-jitsu tournaments, right?
They've got to wrestle at some level.
Exactly.
Like Galvao went on to do a lot of MMA, right? Who else? Shanji had a bunch of MMA fights in Japan.
Yeah, Verdum. Of course,
Vinny Magalhaes.
Mark Kerr was an MMA fighter a little bit.
So a big, long history of that. Ari Farias as well. He's out there competing in MMA as well. But I'll be honest, man, like straight up.
Makes me sad.
It makes me sad. I'm glad
sad.
you said you're like, I'm not too fussed about MMA because, man, I don't want those guys to go away. I want them to stay in jiu-jitsu. I want to see them competing. I would love to see Rodolfo come back in and tear some guys up at ADCC.
Oh, yeah, that would be
great,
amazing.
right?
Yeah, it's sad to see him go. I think initially they were leaving to chase money, right? Like they wanted they'd maybe accomplished their goals last part of the career, wanted to try and have a shot at making some huge money. But grappling, the money's getting a lot better. Obviously, nowhere near MMA. But I think
at the upper levels.
Yeah, at the upper level.
But I think a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys, you're probably doing a lot better off than the majority of MMA fighters are.
That's what I think, and I'm not taking any brain trauma. You know what I mean? Like, what cost do you?
Yeah.
At what cost is that to you? You know what I mean? I think the average level MMA fighter for a long-term career, unless you make it to that upper level, is not going to have a great income for the rest of their life. You see the guys that have to go to broadcasting and stuff. Whereas like
and that's if they're lucky, man, if they're broadcasting.
Exactly.
Everybody wants that
if
job.
they haven't taken enough hits. Oh wait, Bisping does it. Bisping's in.